Hello everyone, my name is Ravi Mishra and we are talking about X. So yeah, that's the topic of the next half an hour, talking about UCS X-Series and innovation with the UCS X-Series. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Ravi. Hi, team. I'm Jonathan Gorlin. I look after our hyperconverged business within the Cisco Compute Group. So I'm going to come up a little bit later once we have a foundational and all the new announcements with X-Series. We'll talk a little bit about how Nutanix plugs into it all.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Take it away.
Yep, thank you. So if you look at the journey, and I think this is my slide I always use, 15 years back, something differently happened in Cisco. We started building servers. That was the first time we built UCS, Unified Computing System, and we are still selling this chassis even today, even after 15 years. So think about all the innovation we did, future-proofing we did, kind of like fan, power supply. Think about when we came up with this chassis, at that time, CPU was like 4 cores and maybe 65 watt. Now, 350 watt CPUs with maybe 40 to 60 to 128 cores coming in. And we came up with this concept of the modules. And we took this concept from Catalyst 6500, where you have the concept of line card and supervisor modules. So we came up with that design, which was not there in the industry, and 6th generation of servers in one single chassis. And customer took the advantage of modularity. Right? And what happened also that was a part of the compute, but also we came up with unified management. The unified management, the whole idea was it completely based on a policy. So that was a definition of a server. There was no state on the server itself. There was no hardware ID. There was no MAC address on the server. So if I want to repair a server or replace a server, it's like a matter of hours. Sometimes you get a new server, insert into the slot, and you will see your Windows operating system booting inside the server. That was the power of UCS, which we built in, and also the unified fabric. If you understand that before UCS, if the customer wants to order a server, they have to make a decision that how I'm going to connect a network, how I'm going to connect to management, how I'm going to connect to storage. But with UCS, we virtualized the cable. We came up with the concept of unified fabric. So with UCS, you connect one cable on the A side, one on the B side. That's the minimum. You connect for the bandwidth, not for the functionality. And customer get all the benefit of unified fabric, where less number of port, power and cooling benefit. You don't have to buy so many switches. So what X-Series is doing today, when a customer want to deploy an infrastructure, these applications are driving that decision. The server for AI/ML is different from the server for VDI, is different from the server for VMware, is different from the server for big data. And that kind of like silos is creating in the data center a complexity, right? You have to buy multiple fabric to connect the server. You have to maintain the server. There's no concept of lifecycle management. And the challenge is that all these requirements for the application are changing very, very frequently. NVIDIA is coming up with a GPU every 6 to 9 months. And then are you going to replace your server after every 6 to 9 months? CPU and GPU life cycles are not the same. Why you have to do it? So when we launched X-Series 2.5, 3 years back in 2021, our goal was that if our customer can consolidate 70 to 80% of their workload in one single form factor, that's why we call X equal to B, X equal to C. It's blurred the line between blade and rack. The idea is that our customer can deploy most of the application on one single form factor, one single infrastructure. That will simplify the connectivity, that will simplify the management, that will simplify the life cycle, right? And we also brought Intersight. It is the one single software to manage all that infrastructure for the compute, whether you have a rack server, whether you have a blade server, whether you have X-Series server, whether they are in one place, whether they are in multiple locations all across the world, one single dashboard to see all your server, to manage those, to apply the global policy concept where you don't have to worry about, hey, I have a policy in US and I want to use the exact same policy in somewhere else because the application are same. You can copy that global policy into that location. You also have option of having a local policy. So completely policy-based management with Intersight, and also security. It has different model. It's based in the cloud. It's also air-gapped version with the virtual appliance. So whole idea here is that one single infrastructure and one single management model to simplify the customer decision for any infrastructure. The whole idea with X-Series was simple, flexible, future ready. We're also bringing a concept of fabric-based computing because these applications are requiring a lot of new kinds of resources, not only CPU and the memory, but GPUs. We have been seeing different types of disk, NVMe and all, even DPU. Yesterday or today, you have seen we talk about Pensando and all. The whole idea here is that how we can modularize these resources in a modular form factor and give those based on the policy. So that's where X Fabric is. In X series, we have X Fabric, which is PCI Gen 4 based right now. We are looking to upgrade to PCI Gen 5. But if you understand, there's a concept of CXL also in the industry, Compute Express Link, which is going to get popular for memory. The idea here is that if your application needs more memory, sometimes you cannot even buy the memory in the server and add that memory in the server. What if I can give you a pool of resources, a memory blade where you can share with the multiple compute servers? Same with the GPU also. Today we already have X Fabric with a PCI node for the GPUs. We don't have the sharing capability yet because most of the time, all these guys who are using GPU, they want their own native PCI bandwidth. They don't want to share, right? But these GPU resources are not cheap, right? And that's why we are looking into how X Fabric based technology can give you the resources where you can attach those based on a policy and also on demand and even give it to somebody else. So it's like a AI as a service concept, which IT definitely wants. They don't want to have these 8 GPU servers sitting idle, nobody's using it. So the whole virtualization and how UCS came up with virtualization concept is leveraging the compute infrastructure to its extent. And we are doing the exact same thing. Our goal is that with this model, we can give them the GPU with a different vendor. And this will be based on PCIe. And if you look at like NVIDIA has GPU, Intel has GPU. So today we support Intel, NVIDIA. Our plan is to support AMD also in future. But the whole idea is that it's vendor agnostic. It's based on the standard technology, PCIe, but it has a modularity built in. And we are seeing a lot of customers already buying this. This is available from the last 2 years, so it's not new. We are looking into how we can increase the GPU density, how we can provide newer interconnect technology in this model, but all based on the module, so our customer can easily upgrade. They don't have to rip and replace in that case. Okay. I also want to talk about the X Series Direct. That's the second innovation we did. After the X Fabric. If you look at the compute requirement at the edge location, right? If you go to any warehouse, any hospitals, the requirement for the compute and storage is increasing because AI/ML inferencing, as you know, where you generate the data. You generate the data at these locations. So you have to store the data also at those locations, right? And you also have to get the intelligence that what is meaningful data, which you have to copy back into the data center or into the cloud. So in terms of the edge definition, Cisco has a lot of definition of edge, right? I mean, SASE edge, app edge, enterprise edge. My focus is enterprise edge, what I'm talking about. And we are bringing a form factor for the edge. It's the same chassis which our customer are using in the data center, but it's a self-contained box. It's like a 7RU box with 8 servers inside, and all the benefit I just talked about, whether you want a GPU, whether you want any of those high-core CPU with Intel, AMD, blades, and all those options available with 1, 10, 25, 40, 100 gig connectivity on the Ethernet side and also 860/32 on the fiber channel side. The benefit is you can use the exact same policy which you're using in your data center into these locations. So we have customers like warehouse and hospitals. They only have like 2 or 3 servers, but the requirement for those compute are increasing at those locations, and they want higher CPU, they want GPUs and all. We are providing almost like a branch in a box, data center in a box kind of solution. It can connect to anything Nexus 9K, ACI Leaf, wherever you want to connect to on the top of the rack, because it has all these options available. But everything making it like almost like one box where, because most of the time these locations do not have any IT presence. So someone has to ship something from the data center and also send someone at that location to maybe connect it, manage it, and console it and all those. In this case, it's like the model is that you can pre-configure from the data center, send the box, ship the box, connect it into the network, and you can easily manage from the interside. In fact, from the interside, we have the workflows which can install operating system with the automation. It can also install the application on top of it. So simplifying that IT requirement and presence at the edge location is what XDirect is. And the goal here is that any application our customers are using, whether it's OpenShift, whether it's AI/ML, whether it's a flash tag, because you can connect that box to shared storage. You can connect that to Pure, NetApp, Hitachi, all the different kind of storage you can connect that box to. So one single kind of like a modular form factor, which is again modular, so you can upgrade and add what your applications are looking for there. Okay, the last one I want to talk about is AMD Compute. We just launched AMD Compute this week, and we are seeing that when UCS came up, we had this concept of unified computing. What does this mean? As I said, M1 server has 4-core CPU, but what our customers saw, they actually saw that in one chassis with 8 blades, we are giving them 64 cores, because they are applying the policy on those 64 cores. We also have the concept of UCS domain. That means in one UCS domain, you have 160 server. So literally, you're applying those policy in 1280 core server. That was a one big server in terms of the policy, in terms of the management. So we simplify that concept where you no longer have to manage every server and think about what resources I have inside that. UCS has this concept of pool policy template and the resource pool, where I'm applying a policy configuration on a bunch of servers. And those servers can be a combination of different form factors also, right? 2-socket, 4-socket, different CPU also. But the idea is pooling of the resources. What we are doing with AMD is, yes, with Intel today, in 7RU with 8 server, we can provide 1,000 cores with 8 server. With AMD, we are doubling up the number of cores to 2,000. This is the highest density of any compute available today in the market. Right? In 7RU with 8 server, 2,000 cores. So think about massive consolidation of your data center. When we talk about VMware licenses, when we talk about power and cooling, we have customers who reduce their footprint from 60RU going to almost like 16RU. So overall requirement for the power, cooling, space, density, licensing, you can easily, massively reduce in this case. And that's what the benefit it's giving. It's massive consolidation for all the footprint. And if you look at the blade, it has the exact same kind of architecture as Intel, right? So if the customer is already using X-Series, they don't have to do anything. There's a slot available in that chassis. You just insert the blade inside. It has all the same kind of modules which we support today on Intel, like M6 and M7, storage controller, GPUs, and all those VIC with 25 gig, 100 gig, all those options are available, okay? So in short, this is the X-Series portfolio I was talking about, that we have servers, in this case, 2-socket X-Series server based on Intel, 4-socket X-Series server based on Intel, and also the new entrant, which is 215C AMD Compute. All these chassis connect to Fabric Interconnect. Fabric Interconnect is our top-of-the-rack switch, which connects all these servers together. In that Fabric Interconnect, we have 2 generations, 4th gen and 5th gen. 4th gen is based on 25 gig, 5th gen is based on 100 gig. And then IFM is an intelligent fabric module, which goes inside the chassis where Fabric Interconnect connects to. So that's our fabric. The unified fabric has 3 components: Fabric Interconnect, IFM, and VIC. VIC goes in every server. VIC is the virtual interface card. It's like your NIC. But what we did in the VIC, as I said earlier, we virtualize the cable. So based on my policy, I can create 50 100 gig ports on my server. I can create 100 gig ports on my server. Your server will see those as PCI devices. We use SRIOV as a concept. So based on the policy, we are creating those many IOs. That's where the VIC innovation was in UCS from day one. So VIC, IFM, and FI is part of the fabric. Then X Fabric is our PCI fabric, as I mentioned earlier. So that goes inside the back of the chassis. It's based on the PCI. And the GPU node, which is PCI node, connects to X Fabric. So X Fabric connects between the compute node and the PCI node over the PCI bandwidth. So that's the complete portfolio. Any question I can answer in terms of what innovations are doing?
So
yes.
is there any plan to support other GPUs than NVIDIA? Like you had the Intel as well, obviously.
Yes.
So how about the AMD?
Yes, so AMD today have MI210, which is PCI GPU. We are looking to support that recently because AMD did not have the roadmap for that GPU, but now they are realizing PCI is the standard most of the customers are looking at, right? So yes.
So what are the timelines for that?
I don't have the commitment right now, but we are looking at maybe sooner in the next couple of quarters we'll support it.
How many GPUs was maximum per blade? There was 2 or 3?
So depending upon the GPU type, we have some GPUs which are full height, full length. Some GPUs are half height, half length.
Yeah.
So depending upon if you're talking about H100, which is dual wide, full height, full length, we can support 2 per server right now.
And what is the maximum? Like if I go for like 800s, what is it? Like they're single, right? NVIDIA 800, 8100, sorry.
8100.
Yeah.
So those we can support 4 of those. So the whole idea is that the X-Series has the 54 volt DC power distribution. So we are able to save the power in that case, because if you remember how the voltage works, if voltage is high, current is low, what is heat? I square R. So heat dissipation for the exact same, if the voltage is high, will be lower. That's why your 20 amp cable versus 50 amp cable has different, kind of like thickness. So we are using less copper also inside. And the reason is that because it's a 54 volt DC, the dissipation of the heat also is lower from there. So we can power on those 600, 700 watt GPU in this form factor very easily. But it's very difficult to support that in the rack server, where GPU typically goes in the back of the server. That's not the coolest place inside the server, by the way, right? But in this case, the blade are in the front, so they get cold air. So our goal is to support even 600, 700 watt GPU like Blackwells and all in future.
So the UCSX, is this like Cisco's edge solution now?
No, it's a data center solution. It's like next generation of the B series. Today we have B series blades. So it's X series, but also you can use this at the multiple places. And that's where the X Direct is. X Direct is one box solution. You don't need any other switching or anything. It's like a self-contained box. You can connect that to the wall jack with 1 gig connectivity. So that's the edge solution, but exact same form factor, but used as the edge solution.
Yeah, I know we're here for the talking UCSX, right? Not UCSC. So I was just curious, how are you positioning UCSX?
Yeah, because if you compare the rack and the blade, right? So every rack server is has its own power and cooling. Every rack server has power supplies, right? So think about in your home, you have a central AC. What if you have to put AC in every room? Which one is cost efficient? Which one is cheaper to manage? So that's what the concept is. In this case, we have power and cooling, which is completely shared. We have IO, which are completely shared, and everything is a module.
Yeah, on the other hand, I was thinking, maybe I'm working with a different kind of clients, but I'm working with a client who has a small room in the brain side, Starbucks, etc.
Yes.
And it's deploying UCSX with 7 blades in there to run.
Yeah, that's not the ideal place for it.
Yeah, that was my
warehouses are. We are looking into how we can even provide that also option later on. But the whole idea is that this is the journey we are starting. We are seeing more and more compute requirement at the edge location. So for your warehouses and for your hospitals and manufacturing plant location where you have 5 to 6 to 7 servers, this is the ideal solution.
The CXL second tier memory support, that's only within a single chassis? There's no chassis to chassis sharing?
So right now inside the chassis, we are looking at how you can go outside, whether it's a PCI over Ethernet, what are the technologies available. So we are looking at CXL committee to give us some recommendation there with CXL 3.0. But our goal is that inside the chassis, we should be able to support it first.
And how about the support for the NVLink and stuff like that?
So right now, those two GPU do not support NVLink, but we're looking at that if there is a way to support NVLink within that same kind of form factor. So yes, there is a debate going on with the NVLink, UL, and all those stuff. So Cisco is very active in that committee. So yes, we are looking into that.
With the Ultra Ethernet and etc., right?
Yes. Okay. With that, I will hand it over to Jonathan.
All right. Thank you so much, Ravi.
Take it away. Thank you.
Here's the background on X-Series. It's going to do me a lot of favors. I won't have to introduce the basics and also the new innovations with the AMD blade, right, and the X-Direct module. I want to talk about the software that goes on top of all of this great hardware, right? And particularly Cisco and Nutanix, just within the last year, we announced a very strategic partnership to join up with Nutanix. So I want to kind of give you a little bit of an overview of that and then talk about our new announcement, which just happened yesterday at the show, where we're now supporting this on top of the X-Series platform. So just to give you a little bit of overview about this partnership with Nutanix. Hopefully you all have heard of Nutanix before. They're a pretty dominant force right now, and more relevant than ever. And really, when we set out to build this relationship, we wanted to be very strategic in terms of what we do with our partnership. And so we've leaned in really heavily with Nutanix, as if they have, in both directions across 3 key pillars. The first is co-engineering. So we actually have a joint roadmap with Nutanix where we're actually taking the pieces that Ravi talked about, our management plane, which is Intersight. We're actually integrating via API with the Nutanix tool sets, Prism Central, Prism Element. And if you're not that familiar with the Nutanix stack, you can think of this as almost like a vCenter equivalent, right? So we're integrating the virtualization plane that also does both VMs and containers, as well as storage stack with AOS. And so a key part of this is about integrating our products together to make them interoperate and do some really great things together. The second piece of our partnership is all about a joint support model. So this is where we've actually taken Cisco TAC and the Nutanix support engineering teams. We've integrated the case management tools on the back end via API. So you open up a case with Cisco, you get automatically, a shadow case gets created on Nutanix, all the case notes are in sync. The whole idea is so that customers can get quick support and we can do warm handoffs between the 2 companies. And then the final piece of the partnership, excuse me, is about the go-to-market, which is all about customers love to do business with Cisco. Many of them see Cisco as a strategic partner. And so rather than establish a whole new relationship with Nutanix as another partner, it's really about bringing all the existing things that customers love about doing business with Cisco, things like different buying programs, financing, consumption-based models, our EA program, our enterprise agreement program. So all the goodness that customers love about dealing business with Cisco, we get to bring that and all the Nutanix software onto our price list. So net, this is all about a really integrated experience where we're trying to create Nutanix to be an extension of the Cisco portfolio. And if you see the way we're doing that, we're doing it across engineering, natively in the product, we're doing it across support, and we're doing it across how we actually transact and how we actually support customers through the commercial aspects of it. So the big announcement that we made yesterday, of course, we support this already on our C-Series rack mount servers, which we haven't spent a lot of time talking about today. We have plenty of those we can show you on the show floor. It's really about taking all that X-Series innovation that Ravi talked about, and now we get to bring the Nutanix stack on top of this modular architecture. And this is the first time that Nutanix is going to support a modular architecture like X-Series. So we're going to have an exclusive with Nutanix to be able to support this. And as Ravi was explaining, X-Series is not the blades of 10 years ago that you're thinking about, right? Where you have limited drive space, you have limited I/O, you have limited expandability with GPUs. Now, as was explained a few minutes ago, with the X Fabric, we can bring GPUs in. With these blades now, we have the drive density where we can actually put 6 local disks up to 15 terabytes and 30 terabytes right around the corner. We can actually get to a point now in a blade architecture where we can actually completely move to a software-defined storage solution right inside of the chassis itself. And so what is it all about? Nutanix is all about simplified operations, hyper-converged infrastructure, right? It's all about turnkey, simple, all the automation and all the testing have been done by Cisco and Nutanix. You basically run through a wizard and everything gets deployed and you have a fresh cluster out at the end of the site, at the end of that process. The other piece, we talked about the sustainability aspects. That's one key element that we bring with the X-Series. And then the agility is all about wherever your requirements are going, right? If you need GPUs, you can add those in. If you need to change out and you need to move to a newer generation of server, you can do that. Really about having more flexibility. So if you look at the pieces and parts of what this solution looks like, as I said, it runs already today great on our C-Series rack servers, the pizza box servers. And we don't have a preference if the customer likes rack mount servers. That's absolutely great. But the really new thing that we're talking about this week is all about bringing it on the X-Series. You can see tons of flexibility here in terms of how you consume the storage. So there's a concept of an HCI node, which is when you bring compute and storage together. There's a concept of storage-only nodes, where you can go, let's say you have a much bigger storage requirement than you have a compute requirement. And there's another piece to this, which I'll show in just a few more slides, which is a new compute-only program we're driving with Nutanix exclusively to give you flexibility to right-size your environment, right? If you need just a little bit more memory, maybe it makes sense to have a compute node. If you need a little bit more storage, add the storage. And their platform is super flexible to allow you to mix and match different types of configurations. You can see the 2 hypervisors we support, of course, Nutanix's own AHV hypervisor as well as ESX hypervisor. So we support both of those equally. And it really gives customers an opportunity to standardize on a platform and maybe over time shifting from one hypervisor to another, right? But it all runs on the same platform, the same storage services. And by the way, those services can also run in the public cloud. So you can stand up Nutanix in AWS or in Azure and have an exact same platform, whether you're running on-prem, in a data center, you're running in the edge, you're running in cloud. It's really a seamless platform that allows you that hybrid cloud mobility. The other place where we're adding flexibility is in terms of networking options. So Ravi was talking about our fabric interconnects and all the great things we've done to kind of unify all of the functions going across cabling and reducing that mess. So we can continue to do that with UCS fabric interconnects. And all of that is automated out of the box, right? So when you run the Nutanix installer, we'll provision all of the virtual networking, all the physical networking. When you add a new node to the cluster, you don't have to worry about missing a VLAN tag. I'm sure we've all been there before, right? But another option that we have is Intersight standalone mode. If you want to bring your own fabric, your own top-of-rack switch, if you're in an edge location that already has switches, you can absolutely build a best practices network on your own. So we're giving you flexibility in that sense. Since this is the big announcement, I wanted to just do one double click on the X-Series here with Nutanix. And these are all the concepts that you just heard about from Ravi, right? We're taking the X210C M7 compute node, can run ESX or AHV as a hypervisor with up to 6 drives. And we actually have higher drive density coming in the next generation of blades as well. So it's only going to get better from here. We've also got the PCIe node for GPU expandability. That's going to be supported as well. And we've got the IFM for all the switching, and we're supporting both the external fabric interconnects as well as the new X Direct that we talked about, where all the switching happens locally inside of the chassis. Okay, so all of these great innovations are going to apply directly to what it looks like to run a stack like this. Now, on top of that, again, I want to kind of come back to what our Intersight management platform was all about. We briefly talked about it, but it's really about having SaaS-based management, very similar to the Meraki dashboard, right? If you're familiar with Meraki, right? This is the same concept of where we're managing on-prem compute using a SaaS-based management platform. So it's not a platform that you have to stand up and worry about scaling and care and feeding. It's all SaaS delivered. And what we've done is we've taken Intersight, which is the way we manage all of this compute, and we've integrated it with the Nutanix toolset, which is Prism Central. And so traditionally what would happen here is we would have to, let's say you need to provision infrastructure at the edge. Typically what you do is you would ship the equipment to a staging site, you would unbox it, you would install the operating system, hypervisor, IP address, box it up again, ship it to the remote site, where probably some skilled person would have to go install it, right, and get it done. Instead, what we propose is a much better model. Again, this is very similar to Meraki, where we can drop ship the servers directly where they need to go in their final site. All we need to do is connect up network. It's claimed inside of Intersight. We can do everything remotely. Bare metal provisioning, OS installation. We can really manage this entire thing remotely. And what does that mean? It means that you can reduce the truck rolls. You can reduce the need to have to send expertise out to the remote site. And the reason we're able to do that is because we're integrated in the firmware of the server, right? We're so low level in the stack that we're able to do this. And so you can imagine a situation where maybe I want to change out my hypervisor in all of my remote locations, right? How would you do that today? You would have to have an army of people go out there and re-image boxes and open KVM consoles and do all that kind of stuff. With Intersight, we can do that all remotely. You can be thousands of miles away. And that's the power of bringing together the innovations that Nutanix have along with Intersight. And what we do really well with Intersight is distributed compute management wherever that may be in the world. So this is really just restating what I talked about. So these innovations that we've launched with Nutanix really allows us to do this kind of zero-touch remote deployment, being able to do this at scale, and then also bringing some of the benefits of Intersight for day 2 management. So how do I get support, automatic log upload, getting a security advisory dashboard, and we're really working, and hopefully we'll come back and talk to you at another event about how we're actually investing very heavily in the day 1 ongoing operations between Prism and Intersight, right? So the first level of integration that we have, and this is shipping today, is for the installation. And then we're going to have expansions and upgrades. And then the next piece of it is how do we actually share telemetry and information between the 2 products to bring them as close together as possible, as I talked about at the outset. All right, last slide. Just want to talk about this announcement that happened at Nutanix's conference, which was just 2 weeks ago in Barcelona. We were very excited to see that this was the first announcement in the keynotes, and we're partnering with Nutanix exclusively on this concept of AHV server. And so the idea is they have their AHV hypervisor, and we want it to run in more places, right? And so the idea is partnering with Nutanix to figure out how can we bring more of customers' existing hardware estate in their environment into a Nutanix environment. And so this is going to be a new program where we can qualify very quickly new hardware platforms. So for example, we're starting with the B200, M5, and M6, because there are a ton of those out in the wild, and customers are saying, well, help me move to Nutanix without having to refresh all of my hardware, right? And then the second piece is there'll be a new licensing model to go along with this. So at the end of the day, this is about flexibility, giving customers more tools to reuse their existing hardware investment, and also right-size the environment, right? Where maybe I need more compute than I need storage, and so I want to bring in. And you can see kind of here in the picture illustration, you can mix the blade architecture with rack mount, even with our older blade architecture, which I don't show here. So again, it's all about giving customers that flexibility to get onto Nutanix as easily as possible. All right, and so happy to take any questions, and really just want to leave you with that we're really working hard to innovate with Nutanix to make this a great option for customers.
So the architecture needs to be with the FIs, so no edge.
So we support both architectures now. Yeah, when we first launched, it was FIs only, and we just launched about a month ago GA, what we call Intersight standalone mode. So now you can connect up to any top rack switch that you'd like, and it gets managed via Intersight.
And run the Nutanix on top of it.
Correct. Correct.